Lately, I've been thinking about the tools that I used to use back in high school. Now, for those of you who are not aware, I went to a very unique high school that had a lot of computer-based majors. It was kind of like a hybrid between college and high school. So my major was computer graphic design, and for those of you who are in the design field, you may know, if you're also doing video production, that the Macintosh is pretty much the go-to system. We were doing basically a little bit of everything. Vector drawing with Illustrator, photo manipulation in Photoshop. We had video production in iMovie. We did even more detailed video production with Final Cut Pro. We did pamphlet design with Adobe InDesign. And we also did animations with Macromedia Director. And I need to be honest with you, I completely forgot about Director because supposedly Director has not been updated since Adobe CS4. And I haven't used Director or any of this software actually since 2005, back around the time of Adobe Illustrator 10. But I do miss working with this software. It was a lot of fun. So I'm going to address each of these individually and go over some of the stuff that I did. I cannot show you anything though, because when I was loading up some CDs that had the work on it, I guess without Illustrator I can't even preview this stuff, and I just don't think it's enough. It's not worth it for a 30-day free trial just to do that, unless if there's some application that Adobe creates that's kind of an equivalent to Microsoft's Word Viewer, something where you could just view Illustrator documents. Anyway, what I did, well, we did a lot of things. I remember doing a business card that had, actually, well, yeah, I don't remember the specifics of the business card, but I do remember the specifics of this one advertising campaign we did, something about promoting education. And what it was we took a cereal box and had to come up with a little skit on the front, like an advertisement for education. So what I did was I created a vector drawing of a school bus, and on this school bus, it said like Cheerios County Schools or something, and it can't remember what else I had. Some information around it regarding the main campaign. And I had little Cheerios inside the bus, little Cheerios sitting in the seats. And I also remember doing a button for our local blind center. And I had the blind center's name on the outer edge. For those of you who are familiar with Illustrator, you'll remember that you can take the text tool and manipulate so that you can make the text go any way you want. It's really, really powerful and really a lot of fun to use. For those of you who don't know, you can take the text tool, and if you click and hold, you'll get all sorts of different ways to manipulate your text. You could do it forwards, backwards, upside down, arc, swirl, all sorts of different things. So what I did was I did the arc, and I basically wrote the blind center's name out on the edge of the button, and on the inside, the contraction for the word blind in Braille is letters BL. So I did that using the, let's see, where is the, I can't find it. Trying to look for my circle tool here, but I don't see it. I guess in CS they've made a fair amount of changes. So basically, I went ahead and used my circle tool and some swatches to create gray Braille cells that depicted the contraction for the word blind, and thinking back, I should have probably gone in and done the full Braille cell with all 6 dots, but live and learn. But no, whenever I was done with a project, I can tell you that I immediately migrated to Illustrator and just started playing around in it. I loved it that much. It was just fantastic. Now, the Illustrator program itself is around $700, or is it $600? Maybe it was $400. Anyway, it's several $100s. Not cheap. And for personal use, I don't see the investment being worth it. I am certified in computer graphic design from high school, but again, I haven't touched the software in 6 years, so the overall layout's the same. I would just need to adapt to the new features. Part of me would like to maybe get going again, but I don't know. One of my design courses this term, it's not graphic design, it's basically web design for educational use. Probably benefit with Illustrator. I could probably download a 30-day free trial, but the software they specifically used were Dreamweaver and Fireworks, and I thought that that's what I'd used when I did my animation that I'll talk about later on. But no, it was actually Director. For those of you out there who've used Illustrator or know somebody who's used Illustrator or the Adobe Creative Suite in general, what happened to Director? Anybody know? Because it hasn't been updated since CS4. So besides Illustrator, I also used Photoshop. And I kind of went between Illustrator and Photoshop a lot of the time because the document formats are interchangeable. And I would use the gradient tool to create various effects like chrome and whatnot. I remember using the lasso tool a lot of the time to select specific unusual shapes. I mean, this is just a really powerful and creative and fun tool set to use. And of the two, I personally said that I would prefer. I personally enjoy Illustrator over Photoshop. I remember one time we were asked to edit a photo of a burger, right? Well, I'm not the typical person, and I thought that that burger was a chicken burger with spinach. Nobody had told me otherwise. Needless to say, I didn't do too well on that assignment. Excuse me. Thanks to that presumption. Live and learn. Well, but no, I think that of the Illustrator and Photoshop team, the combo, I prefer definitely Illustrator and also InDesign. InDesign is a fun little application. For those of you who do not know, if you've ever gotten like a brochure from a company on a product, like a 3-page trifold brochure, you know, it very well could have been developed using Adobe InDesign. I remember using InDesign to create a pamphlet on monkeys back in high school, and it's just really, really all this stuff is just really powerful, and it's really a great way to be creative. And I do miss that. I do miss that because I've always been something of an artistic person. I was always drawing when I was younger, very intricately detailed. I mean, yes, my drawings were usually 2D. I didn't bother going into the 3D. And the reason I didn't was because of my depth perception being worse than it is now. My vision overall is better than it was then when I was younger. But the reason I stayed away from... oh, I apologize if I hit the microphone with my finger there. The reason I stayed away from 3D was because of my depth perception. I couldn't quite get a 3D object to be completely 100% straight. But a lot of the times when I was younger, I would draw a lot of 2D drawings, mostly of vehicles, and I just carried that over into Microsoft Paint and then further on into Adobe Illustrator, and it's just an artistic medium, and it's just a medium for artistic expression that I really I miss, but I don't see myself investing the kind of money needed to utilize the software on a regular basis, especially if it's just for leisure use. But no, InDesign was a lot of fun to use. It was really neat to create those brochures, and you can You can do all sorts of wacky things. You can do bifold, trifold, horizontal, vertical. You could create magazines with it. In fact, in newer versions of InDesign, as I understand it, you can actually create material for tablets, for tablet computers. And that, I think, is just awesome. But no, that's basically my experience with InDesign. Is just, it's just been fantastic. Now, anybody who has a Macintosh will recognize iMovie, but you may not recognize this version of it. This was prior to the redesigned iMovie of iLife 08. We had our clips up here on the top. We had our timeline down here on the bottom, and we had our audio down here in the very bottom. Now, real quick, before I forget, this is sort of a calling to anybody who's using Macintosh out there. Current revisions of iMovie. How can I get my audio to come up so that I can individually clip it? Because in the older iMovie, I would just place my head over it. I would just go up to, excuse me, I would just go up into the edit menu and just split audio at playhead. But I'm not sure how to go about doing that in the newer iMovie. Now you're thinking, well, I've had it since 08. Really all I've used it for is uploading raw footage to YouTube. So we used iMovie in earlier graphics classes, and as I got more advanced, we turned to Final Cut Pro. And this is not the new Final Cut Pro, this is the older Final Cut Pro. And I remember creating a public service announcement. I got marked down on it. In fact, I viewed the public service announcement not too long before I just created this video. And I think the reason was because I was probably too close to the microphone without realizing it. But the trouble is, when you have a class of 35 students, you can't always go back and re-edit because you've got other students that need to get their audio into their projects, and we had a timeline, so live and learn. But no, Final Cut Pro was really, really awesome. In fact, I also remember using it to get some other stuff done. I basically put all of this together when I used Macromedia Director, which is now known as Adobe Director, which, again, I don't know why, but to my understanding, it hasn't been updated since CS4, and we're up to CS 5.5, so I'm wondering if Director has been phased out and replaced with something. But what you could do with it is you could create animations. And what I did was I created a little animation with this little 2D eyeball. Now, everything I made in Illustrator and I brought into Director. The audio was Final Cut Pro, brought into Director. Basically just a combination of everything. So I took the graphics from Illustrator and Photoshop and brought them into Director, brought the audio into Director, and treated each individual Illustrator file as a sprite, and just made this little movie where this little eyeball comes along, he's just having a nice day, and then all of a sudden here comes this monster, it's sort of a ghost type thing, a big red ghost, and he goes along and he's chasing this guy. And then where the music comes in from Final Cut Pro, I imported it from a CD, and it was the Back to the Future soundtrack, and I basically used that. I used the chase. I used the shoot. What was it? I think it was the skateboard chase scene from Part 1 as the chase scene for this for the movie. And then at the end, I played the Back to the Future fanfare when the eyeball finally squashed the monster. Now there really there wasn't much to it because I had to keep it at 30 seconds, but I wanted something to be fun. Now, unfortunately, I can't play those anymore because when I created them back in 04 and 05, actually, it was 03, 2003. Apple had not transitioned from PowerPC to Intel yet. And as a result, everything was PowerPC. And unfortunately, because Apple no longer supports PowerPC, I cannot get the because I published the movie to a Director file that could be run as an executable program on both Windows and Mac. And on the Mac side, because they no longer support the they no longer support PowerPC, I can't get the application to run. So if anybody wanted to see it, I wouldn't be able to show it to them, unfortunately. But no, this is basically all the software that I used back in high school, totaling over thousands of dollars. And I really, I miss it. I miss working. Everybody misses high school, but has it really been for an academic reason? I'm not saying it hasn't been. I'm just saying that there are a lot of people who miss, say, it's their, old high school sweethearts, their certain classes that they could goof around in. For me, what I miss about high school was my major classes, my graphic design classes. I miss working in Illustrator, creating those ads. I miss working in Photoshop, InDesign. But I think of all of those, if I had to go back and pick one piece of software out of all of this, I would definitely go with Illustrator. I would go with Director, but I'm not sure if Director is even being actively developed anymore. But no, I do hold certification in graphic design, and the reason I went in, for those of you who do not know, I do have a bachelor's in special education. Excuse me. And the reason I switched courses from high school, I originally was thinking about continuing along the road to graphic design. Well, in 2005, for those of you who are not aware, I lost my vision temporarily due to an internal bleed. And several years later, my vision's stable and it's gotten better. Had we known this was going to happen, I probably would have stuck to graphic design. And the reason is because I appreciate the education I got in special ed, and I appreciate the teaching experience. The teaching experience is actually what led me to decide that I don't want to teach full-time. It's just way too much stress. However, I am more of a behind-the-scenes person. I do like to create things. I do like to create, well, for instance, in my free time during the summer, with Adobe Illustrator at camp, I used it to create a flyer depicting a barbecue we were going to have. And that was just out of the blue. We secured a copy of Illustrator, and I got to work, and there we go. But no, I do miss my high school days. But what do you guys think? Any comments? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.